And this week, Controller Brad Lander announced that he is now considering legal action following the pause, along with several other groups.
Congestion pricing is the law of New York State, and Governor Hochul does not have the individual or arbitrary authority to change that.
We will continue to hold her responsible. We will call it Hochul's MTA every time our train is delayed, our bus is slow, we do not have enough elevators at our station. We will continue to call it out.
All right, and along with Controller Brad Lander, there you saw Danna Dennis, Senior Director for the Writers Alliance. So thank you for being here on Picks and Politics. Good to see you.
Thank you, Dan.
This is such a big issue. So many people are talking on it, on both sides, really, right?
Yeah.
And you stood side by side with Governor Kathy Hochul in the early days of this.
Yeah, a year ago this month, actually.
And we saw you right behind her as she talked about congestion pricing. Obviously, the conversation shifting. The mayor came out and said that he was tipped off to this 2 weeks ago. What about you?
Yeah, it really started for me just last week, right? It was shocking at first to hear. I actually couldn't believe in this final hour that she would make a decision that would let down, 5 million riders across the city, especially in a time when we're finally getting a funding source or a dedicated funding source that will, do some of these capital fixes. These are the things that we hear constantly. As an organizer who's on the ground, who's literally on the platform sometimes twice a week talking to riders, organizing meetings to hear firsthand from bus riders and subway riders what they're experiencing, the concerns really don't change. Over the last decade, they've been the same. They need better infrastructure. They need higher frequency, right? Less delays. They need to get to work and school on time and various appointments. And we need more access. And that can mean a lot of things. That can mean a more affordable system where we don't see fare increases every couple of years. And that can also mean, of course, more elevators, escalators, and so on.
So obviously there's a pause on this,
Yes.
indefinitely, as we know. We saw you out there very fired up with Brad Lander and a number of other supporters talking about what legal action would look like. So it's not a lawsuit yet.
Yeah.
What does it look like?
So it's a conversation that the advocates are having in the background. We're consulting with our legal teams across various organizations, as you all heard yesterday. And that is really to say, first of all, is this legal? Which it is not, right? What is the actual law hold up on this? Because as we know, congestion pricing is not just a policy, it is a law that was passed in our state in 2019, one that I fought for and still stand for, unlike the governor.
So hold on one second. Let me just stop right there, because the law on the books is that New York needs to implement congestion pricing, but it does not say when. Right? So that's kind of where the murky area is, because she paused it not forever. So where does the legal action come in then?
So in terms of the legal action on that, I think, we can actually, we're at a point right now where there can be a suit that can be filed.
Okay.
In terms of the pause, I will just say I don't believe that, and I don't think many of us do. And yes, she definitely has the right to say, hold on, I want to examine this. I said it yesterday. Or I want to look into this a little more. But I think what is, disappointing to all of us is why now? The governor had ample opportunity as she took her seat to say, hey, I want to examine this. Is this working? Is this what the people need? As you saw in Albany last week, right? They are scrambling. Even as she speaks about it now, even after making this big announcement, she says things like, there can be a way. What is the way? She doesn't have one. And neither do the rest of us, quite frankly. This was the highest source of revenue that we have. It was supposed to fix a lot of things. Not going to fix everything, but it was supposed to fix the majority. You're talking about $15 billion hole in the budget. And it's insulting to the New Yorkers who are really already struggling right now financially to insinuate that you would pull from a general fund from any other, any other issue that's on the books, right? Are you pulling from education? Are you pulling from housing? Where are you pulling this money from? Folks who are transit dependent, who take the subway and bus, who don't have an extra dollar, they are already struggling in those other areas of life. You cannot, rob from Peter and pay Paul.
It's interesting to hear your tone now, because you went from a strong supporter of Governor Hochul to now saying you don't believe her.
I don't believe her. And I will say that, that's something that she has done, right? Like, she's really betrayed our trust over these last couple of days, saying words like pause, but then indefinitely. If the pause had even come with a date, which still would have been hurtful, I think, to a lot of folks, we could probably wrap our head around it. but what does an indefinite pause look like, especially when you, as the governor, right, the most powerful person when it comes to the MTA and what transit means to this city, right? You control the budget, you appoint the most people on the board, like you literally are the one who is holding it all in your hands. You wait until this very last hour. How can we trust that?
So are you open? The governor said that she wasn't a time right now because there was this third option that she didn't really consider, and that's that people could stay home altogether, which is kind of what we saw in the post-pandemic world, right? That people were kind of remote learning some days, not others. And so are you open to the idea of maybe a lesser fee than $15? Or was that $15 something you wanted and that was the way you wanted to go?
Yeah, you know, to be honest, the proposal did not come from us, the advocates, right? And so the numbers were really assessed over a long period of time. It took, you know, we're 5 years past the law. It took 4 years for a lot of this to happen, and those figures came out of a lot of folks who are a lot more skilled than I am, who were able to look at the data and say, this is what would get us $1 billion a year. So am I opposed to the $15? No. Could there have been another number? I would leave that to them. I wouldn't, you know, put another figure out there because that's not my expertise. What I will say is that I was more focused on what it was going to get us. What are the tangible, you know, results that were going to be delivered to riders? And now we have infrastructure that's gone up, right? So who pays for that? We have vendors that may have contracts. Who pays for that? We have a lot of things that have been put on hold in this pause. And had the governor said, again, in that first, you know, moment when we got the green light on the Fonzie to say, hey, I actually want to look into this a little more, or I was not the governor when a lot of this was passed, but I want to make sure, you know, under my time here, this is done in a way that, you know, suits me. That would have made sense to the advocates and maybe we would have understood. But I think even the people who opposed are kind of shocked, right? Yeah.
I mean, and there are so many arguments when it comes down to congestion pricing, but when I'm talking to you today. So what are you telling supporters of congestion pricing to do to hopefully unpause it? And then what's the timeline for that legal action you're looking at?
Yeah, so I would say that what I'm telling people to do is to continue to reach out to your legislators. We need to make sure that Albany is hearing from us, every assembly member, senator. It was great to see just last week that a lot of folks in Albany understood and continued to stand on this issue. There were some folks who were like, I may not, and that was okay too. Call us, you know, call the advocates. I'm calling folks. I'm sending emails. I would love to have conversations with people who are like, I need more clarity on this, Danna, or how does this, you know, benefit my constituents? And then I would say in terms of the timeline, again, I think what we are doing right now is viewing what potential litigants could look like. And there are quite a few of us. We're getting together and kind of grouping all of that. We are holding back. Again, this is something that could essentially even be filed today. But I think right now what we're hoping is that the governor... Why hold back? Because, you know, there really is hope, even with the lack of trust, right? There's hope that if the governor does the right thing come June 30th and make sure that, you know, we turn those cameras on, then I think there's room. This is a progressive program. And beyond the governor, we're still looking to the MTA board. We're looking to leadership. We're looking, again, for a little bit more pressure from Albany. We're trying to make sure that folks are holding the line. This is something that people have really fought for, and it's something that we deserve.
It's been a conversation, and it's going to be an ongoing conversation, and I want to have you back to continue that conversation. Keep us posted along the way, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Great to have you here, Danna, Senior Director for the Riders Alliance.